Hi everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Mini Athletics and Me. I am Clare Bowyer, and this is Hannah Danby. And
Hi,
today we have a super special guest with us. A bit of a different story today for you. And we have Eleanor Tomlinson. Now, Eleanor started with Mini Athletics way back, I think, in 2016, and her role has changed since she first started, which she's going to be talking to us about today. But she is a well-known artist who specialises in some amazing art with some amazing brands that she's been working with, and she's going to tell us all about that today. So we are super excited to have you, Eleanor, and can't wait to get chatting to you. So welcome, Eleanor.
Oh, hello. Thank you for having me and thank you for that lovely introduction.
No problem. So we normally start the podcast with three questions. You just give us a one-word answer about those questions, and then we see what you have to say. So the first question is, what are you most passionate about?
Animals. I think I have to say animals because I think that is such a thread that goes through everything that I do, and it is my passion. If you look at my artwork, you'll see that running through everything, really. So yeah, let's say animals.
Amazing. And what is your relationship with sport like?
If I'm allowed two words, it's complicated. Um, from the point of view that I've not always loved sport and exercise, it's definitely been a passion that started maybe later than others. It wasn't till those last couple of years of school, and I used to absolutely hate it. I used to be that very unsporty child, didn't like exercise at all, and now I do things most days and I really push myself and I love it. So yeah, it's been a bit of a journey with me and just sport and exercise in general, I feel.
Brilliant. And my last question, I'd love to know, can anyone learn to draw?
Yes, absolutely. A resounding yes. Yeah,
There's hope
it's
for me yet because
there really is.
body.
There's so much space and scope in the world of art and at workshops. If anybody's ever having a wobble and somebody who's confident and they're worried that they've not got the proportions right, I just remind them of people like Picasso, and they've done a very, very, they've had an amazing career from not being perfect at proportions. So, oh no, honestly, it's there is space for everybody, no matter what your style and what your strengths are.
Mm.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Excellent. Well, great answers.
You were put in the hot seat there, but
I've never done one of those word associations. It's quite fun though, isn't it?
yeah, it's good. It's really interesting to hear what people come out with. So, yeah, great. Like hear a bit about your intro into sport and a bit about your mini athletics. Can you tell us a bit about your background?
Yeah, of course I can. So, as Claire, yeah, 2016 crazily was when and obviously that was sort of quite new into my love of sport, which is why, if we were to sort of go from the beginning, I'd obviously applied to be one of your coaches earlier on. It was when was moving down to Cambridge to start studying illustration. So I'd loved art all throughout school.
Mm.
GCSE A level, knew that that was something that I wanted to pursue. So naturally started looking at art degrees, and the one that seemed best suited for me was going to be illustration. It was just where, and I'm from East Yorkshire myself, and I'm the first one in my family to have gone to uni, so it was sort of between
Okay.
York, and I found Anglia Ruskin in Cambridge, and I think it being an oldie worldy city, it felt similar to York and similar to home, but different and somewhere out of my comfort zone. So I thought, what the hell? So once I'd been offered a place, and it's those next steps, and I thought, well, I'm going to need a part-time job. Let's start looking, and I just was drawn to obviously the role that Mini Athletics was advertising, and I thought, oh, it just sounds different. It sounds, being able to sort of work with children and be the sort of that supportive role. I was like, I'll apply for it, not thinking really anything would come of it. And yeah, and then that was my first year in Cambridge. I did end up moving back to Yorkshire, I must say. I missed it far too much. You can take the gal out of Yorkshire, but not Yorkshire out of the gal. So it was only really for that year, wasn't it? That obviously not a full year with it being education from like September to whenever we finished, sort of May time. But yeah, it was wonderful to be with you guys. And because obviously I was doing illustration, you then started your Kirk approached me about doing some other work for you, of obviously a little bit more closer to home and what I was used to in the nature of drawing, and it's been going ever since, which is lovely. And but going back more to illustration and what I did, I realised very quickly after moving away and starting my degree that I really wanted to work for myself. I'd obviously dabbled and done bits and had a hobby business from school. I was just a very quiet child, and I was not a popular child either. I was not sporty, as I mentioned earlier. And I suppose I had, if I'm completely honest, I had a lot of spare time on my hands outside school because I was so quiet, because I was so shy. So, and I love my art, so I just filled up this time that I had and spent every moment I could in the art room. And I wanted to start my own little hobby business, and I started that through doing Christmas cards, never thinking it would actually go anywhere. And I was doing odd commissions for people whilst doing my A levels, and of course then went to uni. And it was within weeks of starting, and I thought, you know what, I don't want to work for somebody, or not in the sense of, I always thought maybe I'd work for maybe a design agency or something down south, hence moving from Yorkshire. And I quickly realised, I thought, oh no, surely if I can have this as a hobby business already at this stage, and people are, it always amazed me that people would pay for like a card with something that I'd drawn on it. And I thought, well, let's just take these 3 years while studying and just see what I can create alongside. Of course, doing illustration, it was a bit easier because it's two birds, one stone. It wasn't like doing a completely unrelated course.
Yeah.
So for example, when we were asked to do work experience, I did it on a self-employed basis and kept diaries and things like that. So there was a lot of crossover. So I was able to really make that work and benefit me in that way. And I was just really, really fortunate that all the long evenings, weekends, it all paid off over the course of those 3 years. And I was able to leave uni in 2019 and go into it full time. And to my amazement, it's still grown and grown from there. And I'm really lucky that I'm still working with you guys, who was, really near the beginning, but I'm also working with brands such as Jules. I've worked with Ravensburger, HarperCollins, so many, as well as obviously all my private customers doing just, pet portraits, which I love as well. So it's so varied what I do. And
I saw all those on your Instagram list.
Yeah.
They're so lovely.
Yeah, it's like, it's how I started. It was the first commissions I did.
Oh, okay.
And I still love them now. I mean, like I say, I love my animals, I love my pets. So to be able to capture people, to share that love the people have of their animals, and create something that they can keep maybe long after they've passed, because, unfortunately a lot of those
Yeah, there
pieces...
was a lovely one you've done. I think the lady in the pink t-shirt.
Yes,
Like
I know exactly the
her
one you
dog.
mean. It was capturing a really special moment between her and her doggy dancing together. And yeah, I love that, and I love being a part of that process. And I think how I work with my customers, it ends up being really cathartic, particularly if they've lost either a pet or a loved one. It's sort of going through that and then having something at the end of it. It's that's so lovely. Yeah, I get lots of emails at the end sort of saying, it's been a real process of felt closure if something terrible has happened. But it's not always sad. Sometimes it's just really happy, and it's like wedding station illustrations, and it's just full of joy. And it's I can definitely say no 2 days are the same. And the variety I absolutely love. So I feel like it's a bit about me. I mean, I don't know what your questions are, but I know there's, in the last few years, there's been sort of some big things that have happened that
we were going to ask you about that.
I was going to say I didn't know how we were.
We really want to talk about the first time. Was it the first time you went viral?
Yeah, I think it'll be the only time I ever go viral. It's one of those things that it happens to other people. I can only, maybe compare it. It must be like winning the lottery. It's something that the chances of it happening, and it happening to that extent as well, it happens to other people you don't know. You never think it's going to, certainly not to yourself, but even anybody you know. So when I say viral, I'm referring to when it was the Queen's Jubilee. There was an illustration of the Queen in green walking away hand in hand with a certain marmalade-loving bear. This was in June 2022. And of course, it's quite different to a lot of my work. Yes, I've done commission work, obviously, like for yourself and everything, but a lot of it's animals and wildlife from, growing up in Yorkshire and obviously always having that passion for animals. So this was quite different to my norm, but obviously the Platinum Jubilee was such a big occasion, not even just across the UK, but the world. And I just did this little, honestly, off the cuff illustration. It was nothing in my head. It was just nothing.
You
It was
commissioned to do it, or you just did it off your own back?
no, honestly, I was away at the time. I was in the Yorkshire Dales, gone walking and horse riding and stuff. I was away with my mum for a couple of days, and we'd watch the celebrations on an evening and party at the palace, and it just resonate. Obviously, that opening resonated with me so much, like it did everybody across the world, I feel. And I just immediately had this vision of them walking away hand in hand, because I have done pieces in the past where it sort of followed that kind of I'm in animals. I love drawing people and movement and figures, but faces I'm always get a little bit worried about. So drawing somebody from the back solves all the problems. So I thought, I so love it, and it stuck with me. And then it got to Sunday, so this was what, the 5th of June, Sunday the 5th of June. And I always take my pens, brushes and pencils everywhere I go. If I'm staying longer than 1 or 2 nights, they come with me. I feel like they're another limb. I feel lost without them. But this just shows why it's so important if you're creating to take things with you. Who knows when inspiration's going to strike. And we just sat down because it was the Jubilee. We couldn't get in anywhere for a pub meal. I think that was plan A, and this was like plan B, sort of, night in, Sunday night. And I just created it. Obviously, I was sat cross-legged on the sofa with tea and biscuits balanced sort of on the arm. It was just, and then for all of that madness to come from just such a unplanned moment, really, and to think I really nearly didn't create it, if I'd maybe just been in the mood. And then I think the timing was everything, though. So I'd shared this maybe around 6:30 soon after, because I'd obviously had the idea from the night before, sort of after seeing them both together in that lovely opening, and I'd drawn it and all. Of course, Her Late Majesty was so well known for that very classic silhouette of a dress or a dress coat sort of below the knee, so I could draw most of and get it all down, really. And obviously a lot of the colours were already predetermined, but it was just what colour to paint her outfit in. And that was probably the longest bit. I was thinking, what shall I do? And I was sort of looking at maybe some articles from over the weekend, see what she'd maybe worn, because I was deliberating for so long. I mean, the advantages to being a procrastinator, I suppose. In that time, the flag went up at Buckingham Palace, because I was doing this whilst watching the parade down the mall and outside Buckingham Palace. I don't remember all those London buses. This was when I was doing it just on my lap. And then she came out on the balcony in that bright green, so it meant that I could get this finished and upload. And it was just so innocent. All it was meant to be was to my existing followers, which was a good number. I think but nothing crazy, and that had taken about 10 years to get to that point. And I maybe had a couple of thousand on Facebook and maybe 1,500 on Instagram.
Okay.
So nothing had ever gone viral in any sense of the thing. So it's the last thing you'd think would ever happen. And it was just this little post just to round off what had been a lovely weekend. I'd been selling, had lovely time with my family, like everybody across the UK, and it was just this image that really encapsulated what, for me, and obviously resonated with everybody else, of what that weekend had been. And within minutes, it was just snowballing. And I'd only posted it on Facebook and Instagram, so I have a love-hate relationship with Twitter or X or whatever it is this week. But it was somebody else who followed me, I think, shared it on Twitter, because initially I think it went viral on Twitter and I had no idea until the following day. And then it was my friend that was trying to get hold of me, and was like, because I was away in the Dales, like there's no signal. I knew it was sort of going very well, getting a lot of engagement, but didn't quite appreciate to what level. And they were like, you need to go on Twitter and see what's happening. Like all of these different people retweeting your artwork. And I went on, and it was like everybody
Wow.
from like Clare Bowyer to like Jerry Halliwell, one of the Spice Girls. There was like Tim Peake. There's just so many like big names that I would obviously have grown up hearing about. And I'm like, oh my God, they've reshared something that I've created. So it was so unexpected. Yeah, it was the last thing you expect to happen, really.
Yeah,
And
so surreal.
really surreal. I think at that point on Monday, I was like, then I had a nervous breakdown. When you actually realise what's happening, it sort of hits you, and you think, oh my God, all these like thousands and thousands of retweets, and then by that point it was gaining momentum, a lot more momentum on Instagram and Facebook as well, and it was just an absolute tsunami of emails, messages. It was wonderful. Like honestly, I feel so fortunate to have experienced that, but to say it was overwhelming is an understatement. So that was just a crazy, crazy summer. And then, of course, sadly, Her Majesty passed away almost 3 months later to the day. And then, even though this illustration had been created to encapsulate a much happier time, it, for a lot of people, took on this whole different meaning because they were walking away from the party, and with it being so soon after the Jubilee celebration. So it then had this viral surge again. So to have sort of two moments like that within the space of a few months, it was a bit like deja vu. And to my surprise, even now I have conversations with people about it, and they think I'd done it when she passed. And I said, oh, no, it was for the Jubilee. I did do another piece to mark her passing, but it was a much more different tone, more appropriate. I felt for the moment. I was like, no, just for people, they just read into it in a different way, and it did get used and taken and shared, which was lovely to see, because it obviously did bring many comfort, which I could never have predicted, of course, when I created it. So it was a very strange year.
Such an iconic image.
But
we're so proud to that you're part of the team, and we feel like we've been there sort of from the beginning of your kind of career, which is great, and you've done some great things for us. The picture in the background,
I was going to say, I recognise that.
And I think, like you say, the people on it. So we had this one with kind of essentially Kirk and I and the boys, and it's like telling a story, isn't it? And that's what we love. Like I have another one actually that you did. I've got it here.
I was going to say, I think it is.
Wow.
I must say, I love doing that, but I was so sick of drawing greenery and foliage by the end, because I was like, getting all that detail and texture, and I'm thinking, okay, another tree, another bird.
Kirk bought that for me for Christmas, just before our 10th wedding anniversary. So, and he was, and I was like, this is absolutely amazing. We had it up straight away. This is the setting of where we got engaged.
I was going to ask. Amazing.
Looking over London, and then we are in it as well, with the boys.
Show a bit more.
Right
I can.
If I remember correctly, I don't know if we could do, but isn't there like the ring on the bench?
Yeah, but because you see, I didn't actually know about that one until he said this is the start of our 10-year wedding anniversary plans, and then our wedding anniversary was in August. So then we went to Richmond, and he gave me an eternity ring, so another ring. So then when I went back, he said, "Oh, look on the bench," and there was the ring on the bench. And I hadn't noticed it in the whole 6 months that it had been on the wall. But yeah, it's amazing. I just love it, and it's so special to me because it's where we got engaged, and it's you who did it, and your whole tie with mini athletics is fantastic. So yeah, I think as someone who's had one of your pieces, because it tells a story, and like you said before, all your pieces do tend to sort of tell stories of 4 people, and I just love it. So thank you very much.
No, that means so much to hear. It's so lovely to see it again. Honestly, it was I didn't even know that he'd got the second ring. I thought so to know those details after, and to know that it was so long after as well, because I do like creating pieces where almost every time you see it, you see something new or slightly different, or there's a different interpretation to it, even if it's conscious or not. Like I say, sometimes you sort of plan it that way, and then other times you don't. But it was, oh, what a romantic.
I thought I was going to
Yeah,
steal this romance.
yeah, very. I'll
Oh.
have to try and surprise him at some point, won't I?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's great. So you recently you mentioned collaborated with Jules, so I guess you've had some big um other collaborations as well. So how has it gone since you had that massive going viral? I guess that's propelled your
Oh,
work. Um,
definitely. And I'm still to this day so grateful that happened. It's hard, and I can't stress that it was such an overwhelming, tough year, but an amazing year. And I think, especially when you've got the background of that was happening as businesses were recovering coming out of COVID, which obviously was a tough time, and then cost of living. So I count my lucky stars that had happened, because I've no doubt that's helped the last couple of years and sort of navigate what has been a really sort of tricky time for any small business or any business of any size really. And it has brought so many wonderful opportunities. The Jules is another sort of longer ongoing story. I sort of met them and ended up working with them from just before I finished uni. They found my work at an event that I was exhibiting at, and at that time they were planning their 30th birthday celebrations and launching an online marketplace on their website for other smaller businesses that created items that they knew would appeal to their customers. So I was hand selected to be one of those businesses that came on, became what they call Friends of Jules, which lasted up until the other year. So having built that bond and sort of professional relationship over those years, even after that had ended, they had always said, oh, I feel like there's something we could do, something like Jules and Eleanor Tomlinson. And I'd always hoped and kept my fingers crossed that, despite everything that's happened these last couple of years, and then just over a year ago, they'd got in touch and were like, right, we're thinking now's the time to do a collaboration, let's get it in the works. And yeah, just over a year later, to see my artwork on a range of their shirts for both men and women, again, it's one of those pinch me moments. It's wonderful because it is genuinely a brand that I have shot and loved ever since my mid-teens. So
yeah,
I've been a regular shopper there. So but I love where things will take you and where opportunities go, and it'll be the last place you expect. Like with yourselves, never did I think I'd be working with you, coming up to, I mean, I think I said to you, Claire, it'd be like 10 years next
yeah,
year. Goodness, it's just crazy. But never did I think by just applying for like the part-time role you were offering whilst a first-time student, that we'd be here today and you'd be asking me on to you. It's just, yeah, I love
yeah.
how the world works.
It's incredible, isn't it? From your artwork, how many different channels you actually get such variation. It's amazing, fashion and the cards that you do, and then kind of mini athletics, and then all the portraits. It's
Yeah, I've done like
really varied.
jigsaws, did like a coronation jigsaw on Ravensburger.
Oh
Wanted
wow.
to have that. It's just it is, and I'm always really passionate about, I still go into like a lot of schools and stuff,
Okay.
and go and do anything like that, because I, for a long time, I loved art, never thought there was any sort of future or scope to go into it and make it a career and make it something that you could do
Mm.
as a job. And I just think it's so important to spread that message with, well, people of all ages,
Mm.
whether it's small children who have a passion for art and be like, if you love this, just keep going at it, because I promise you, like, and I think 'cause I didn't have that. I loved my art, but there was never anybody that I saw who I could sort of relate to, think, oh, well, if they could do it, I can do it. It was always sort of, it just seemed such a unlikely possibility. So I sort of feel like, well, if I can sort of share my story and be like, oh no, it is possible. I never thought I could do this. I just had a passion and
Yeah,
love to do
yeah.
something, and I've
We
just,
want.
yeah.
Sorry. We were going to say we wanted to talk to you a bit about kind of inspiring the children, because for us, so in our holiday camps, we do lots of arts and crafts, and it's linked to we have a theme for the day, which all our mini athletics games are on, and then we spend a substantial time on the arts and crafts, and the children absolutely love it. Lots of different things: painting, drawing, building creations out of egg boxes, all of those kind of things. But we were going to say to you, what do you really, I guess, what do you think your top 3 tips are for getting children, enthusiastic about drawing, or how can we at Mini Athletics be encouraging children even more at our camps, I guess, into creating and drawing?
What a good but tricky question at the same time. Um, let me think. I think it's stressing that it doesn't matter what form that creativity takes. Just what you sort of saying, obviously, it being like, some of the activities being hands-on. So nobody in my family does art particularly, and I'm always having the argument with my dad, my granddad, my brother. Oh, I'm no good at art. I'm not creative. No, you are. It just takes a different form and it has a different outlet. So theirs is building things and fixing things, and that they've got those kind of jobs and have gone into those kind of careers. And I keep telling them, no, that's creativity. And I feel like, it doesn't have to take the very traditional form of maybe what we think art should be classed by. And, if they love to say build something, it take more of like a craft or a physical form, that's still art. And to make them realize that they can run with that, but equally they might go that and it might turn into something else like down the line. I think I don't know whether it's due to education, whether sort of things get pigeonholed a bit, and as soon as you sort of go outside of that, it then no longer is that, and then people at some point down the line, children, adults, then get I don't know, sort of fall out of. I don't know. It's really hard. So, but I think just whatever it is that takes their interest, like run with it and just give them that encouragement and that support, because you just never know where that's going to lead on to, if they carry on with it.
Yeah, probably it is about, sadly, well, not sadly, but the teachers probably more around the inspiration. It's like, for us running Mini Athletics, all our coaches are amazing, and we tell, every time they go into a class, they're having such a big influence on these children, and that's a lasting impression for life. And it's similar to you with the artwork. Like, I remember at school, I am one of those people who will just say, I can't draw. I can't draw. Art's not my thing. I'm just
kind of like, no, you
And I remember at school, the teacher taking my sketch pad and putting it at one end of the table, and then taking some others and putting the other, and was like, look at the difference. These are amazing. This is awful. And I've never forgotten it. And I was like, right, that is it. I'm done. I just can't draw.
I try and not be too sort of, next guy, no skills at the moment. It's really tough, and it's so to unteach them amazing. But I hear so many similar stories to this, and it breaks my heart, and it's happening still even now. Like, you think, oh, that's maybe going back, but no, some of the things I hear and I think, oh no. So I just think, like I said earlier, everybody can draw. It may take different forms. It might look different, but revel in that uniqueness, because again, it might start off somewhere, but it might go down a path that you don't expect. But don't, just because yours doesn't look like everybody else's, that's a unique selling point. That's your individual style. I'd like to think that my style itself is very accurate, but it's not perfect. Like, I'm not in the world of like hyper realism at all. And I can admire those artists that do, and that can spend maybe weeks or months on a single image, but that's not me. Even if it's my favorite thing in the world, I'd lose interest. I've got that variety. Keep being stimulated by different things. And sorry, so what I was saying was, if you look really closely at any of my work, it is not perfect. There are, I don't like to say the word sort of errors and inaccuracies, because they've all got really negative connotations, but it doesn't matter because it goes into my style. And I mean, going back to the Queen piece, the piece that went viral, it was not my best piece, considering it is now what I'll maybe forever be known for. I look back at it now and I think, oh, if only I'd spent another 5 minutes on that, because I can see all the little things that I'm not happy with. I just think it's hilarious that there's pieces even now that I look back and think, oh, from a technical point of view, I'm so proud of that piece. Hasn't had a fraction of the attention that piece has had, but it goes further than just your technical ability to draw, I think, at times, and it's sort of finding that, but also the best thing that came out of that, I'd always worried that was I unique enough? You know, I was drawing animals and sort of quite traditional subjects. You think it's nothing new. No, wasn't reinventing the wheel or pushing boundaries in any way. And it was something that I got criticised for at uni. That you know, I was just no, you're doing animals, you're doing wildlife. You know, how very whatever. But it was my passion, and I even after having made you know into a full-time career and you know doing this that and the other. I always had that slight imposter syndrome, thinking, "Oh, is it different enough? Is it unique enough?" And when it went viral, obviously it was getting shared hundreds and thousands of times, and I had a lot of people really early on before it, my name got. Sometimes people were crediting me, and don't get me wrong, people sharing. I've probably shared things, and I've not actually checked who's. You know, I think we're all guilty of it, unfortunately, with social media. But it didn't bother me at all. It was lovely to see people loving it and sharing it and everything. But anybody that had already been aware of my work, and obviously it was a smaller number at that time, but they, even though it was different, it was really different in theme to what I'd done before. They were coming back and like, "Oh, Eleanor, I've seen this. It looked like yours. Is this yours?" And people are sharing it, and they're not. But my name wasn't attached to it.
Okay.
And I was like, "Oh my God, yes, I've obviously got enough of a distinctive style that people, even when it's a different subject nature, they're thinking that looks like
I know,
Eleanor's work."
recognise your work. Yeah.
And they were able to sort of come back and actually check, not knowing for certain if it was or not. And that for an art, it's a weird thing to be so happy about. But for me, it was like, I have enough of a cohesive style amongst my work that people can identify it as me. You know, when you look at, you know, all the great artists, they've got a really recognizable style that people are able to analyze and point out. And to sort of know that I did obviously still early on, and I'm not at all saying that I'm anything, you know, but I thought, yes, even at this point in my art journey, it can be recognized as, oh, that's Eleanor Tomlinson's work. And
Yeah, it's incredible.
that's through all these little mistakes, because that's what makes my style. And I think you look at any artist, whether no, sort of, I feel like Picasso and like David Hockney, they're quite like easy examples, because you know just how they capture the world. It's in a certain way, and either the use of colors or things like that. And you know, you sort of, you know, you point that out to somebody, they'll be like, oh yeah, you know. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And when I say
The classic.
you look like a photo, and you know, you can be really playful with your style and make it yours and just own it. So yeah, when people say like they can't draw, I just, yeah, I can understand why people
Try and change my rhetoric.
but it's changing, I think, that inner voice, isn't it? But then I think that, you know, without going obviously into, you know, too big a topic, I feel like that inner voice in different areas of everything needs to be changed, not just with what we can do and being creative. I think so many times it's like certainly something I'm still working on, when I'm like really harsh to myself.
Yeah, we probably all are. Yeah.
I feel like I've waffled on massively. I don't know.
No, it's
all helpful, but
Yeah. You know, the fact that you have got this unique style, and it's great, and we think you know you've put your passion into your business, which is what we're all about here at Mini Athletics as well. We all have a passion for sport, and you know, getting children's enjoyment in sport. So yeah, it's amazing, and it's a great story. So let's just finish with what's next. Have you got anything coming up? I suppose you can't say.
yeah.
No, there's a few
Top
things.
secret.
Yeah, oh yeah. If I told you, I'd have to kill. No, it's not that exciting. No, there's some larger projects that are going to be a more long-term thing. So, like for example, I'm working. It's very early stages, but I'm working on a book which I've always wanted to do, but it's just sort of. I want to make sure it's right before, so I'm sort of working on this in the background, but it'll only ever see light of day if I'm 100% happy with it, so we'll just see where that goes. But again, it's just sort of trying to make that space now for me to sort of be a bit more playful and experiment a bit, because I feel like that's not what I've had the last couple of years, because it's just been a really, really crazy journey. And as amazing as that is, I'm like really trying to sort of carve out that time to just sort of see where my own art's going to go, because I'm still really relatively very early still sort of in my career and what I'm doing. And then so there's like shorter term things that we're looking forward to. We're going to like some big events. It's creating like new ranges. I hate to say the C word, but Christmas is in like full planning. Like as soon as Christmas is over, it's like, right, what are we doing again this year? I try and not mention Christmas till September, because I feel like people are going to hate me otherwise. But the reality is, you know, if it's at all like a Christmas season,
Yeah,
about Christmas all year round. And then just some, yeah, I feel like this is the first quieter year that it's just a little bit more sort of calmer, and I'm moving to somewhere bigger, so I've tried not to be to book too many things in, because I know that I need to sort of finish renovating and doing that. So I'm then hopefully going to have a space that I can have open studios events and sort of welcome people into my world, because at the moment it's sort of been, I guess I do workshops and things, but I've not really had the space to have people round and view things. So where I'm moving to will allow that. So that'll be really nice, because I feel like I'll be able to have, people round in small groups more and sort of share my passion, whether that's in like small workshops or, like I say, sort of show my studio space a little bit more. Yes, and then some things that unfortunately I can't talk about in too much detail.
Oh,
Doing like the planning, and I've sort of got to, sort of be really careful sort of what I say. But yeah, hopefully there's a few ones that, have mentioned that, I've done existing things with, and we're sort of in the early planning stages for other things. So I'm hoping later this year there might be more to share with that. But no, it's very varied as always.
Yeah, we'll definitely be looking out for that. Yeah, and we're so proud to have you as part of the Mini Athletics team. And thanks so much for coming and sharing your story.
Yeah, it's been brilliant to hear. It's really inspiring. Yeah, you've done incredible things. Keep going. It's amazing.
Thank you so much for being part of like my journey, because again, it's getting, it's working with all these people, like yourselves, and it's just, I'm sure it's led to things that I've not, again, not expected, and this, and yeah, it's been wonderful to sort of say, right, 9 years it's been of being a part of the wider Mini Athletics family. So thank you for having me.
No worries, we love having you. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Eleanor.
Thank you.
Thank you all.